clay to me is quite beautiful. You can forget yourself in the clay and be in tune with it. And when you say in tune, you even hear music occasionally with the clay. When I first heard it, it was kind of a shock, you know. And then I tried to hear again. And when you try, you don't. When you let things happen, naturally it does work. It's like poetry, I think, working in clay.
Toshiko Takaezu is one of the 8 Americans whose lives you will share in the next hour. Artists, craftsmen, above all, unique individuals, human beings who, in this age of computers and mechanization, take joy and pride in the simple act of creation, in the use of our first and still most valuable tool, our hands. With these hands, presented by Johnson Wax in recognition of the American Craftsman.
I always wanted to do something connected with self-expression, but didn't have a background. That is, the only art I'd had was in the grade school, and at the 8th grade level I was squelched, in fact, one time by, we had a free day where you're supposed to do whatever you wanted to do, and so I drew or painted a watercolor sunset. And I can never forget, the teacher came around and picked it up and held it up to the class. He said, "Oh, look at this beautiful fried egg poem." That just killed me, you know. I didn't want to go into art. In high school, I stayed away from it. Nevertheless, I had a hankering, a feeling, a subconscious feeling that I wanted to do something with my own hands. The day I took pottery, I knew right away that that was going to be it.
I took my first course in 1958. I got my master's degree in, and I've been doing it mostly ceramics since then. I'd had that couple of years when I was doing the rubber stuff, and I had about a 6-month shot doing electronic stuff, like electric shocker that you hold and that keeps giving you little jolts. I've been turned on more by some toys I've been collecting than I have been about art, you know, or sculpture. I'm interested in making these things, and I enter them in shows where they're called, by some stretch of the imagination, pottery.
When working with a large natural form like this, one of the primary thing I think you have to accept from the beginning is that you're going to make something from what is there. In other words, you can't just have anything you want. There's a certain amount of wood available in a certain spatial arrangement already, which you can't change. You can cut it away, but you can't add on. It's just the opposite of working with clay. You create from a lump into something, and you can get more clay, or you can take it all away, you know, in just a minute. So with a large piece like this, first you take away the wood that has a form or a shape which you find objectionable to your feeling or your idea of what the whole thing is going to be. And then you sort of make do with what is left.
I think being a woman and being a weaver too is a terrible problem, because it's a sort of traditional part of the craft of this country, that women were weavers and they made hop sacking that scratched everybody's backside, you know. And you say you're a weaver. There's one reason I hate saying I'm a weaver, because immediately you think of some little old lady bent over in a dark room somewhere. The image kind of bothers me.
Most of my pieces seem naturally to come out being not too functional. And that's sort of it's part of that whole feeling that makes me, enjoy producing or making them. Because it's something that I consider functional, sure, but in a different way. You know, it's emotional or spiritually functional. You know, the thing, I guess, that's really kind of important to me is that things be free in the way that they can occur. Glass is about one of the most flexible medias that I can think of to work with. I mean, you know, it's hot, it's flowing, and it takes different stages. You know, it can be quick, it can take a long time. It depends upon what you want to do with it.
You know, I wanted to make a porch table. We always used to eat on the porch so we could watch the martin birds, and they had a card table, and the dogs would run under that and spill the coffee and all. So I decided I'm going to make a table heavy enough so a bear can run under it. And I had to turn legs for it. So I thought I'll just get a lathe. And then I just tried making a bowl. Well, kind of from then on, then kind of expanded, just naturally grew.
I decided to go to school, and I didn't know exactly what to take. I thought I'd take engineering or something. And I went there and I said, I'm supposed to be, take this and that. And they said, no, you're too dumb for that. You know, I mean, you can't cut it. So I said, well, what am I supposed to take? And they said, well, we recommend that you either be a mechanic or take an art course. So I went over to the art department, and then I was accepted, and I liked it. This is a great thing. I really worked hard there, and going to the art department, this is a beautiful experience for me. I can't think of anything I'd rather do. There's no job I'd rather be doing.
Crafts, things made by human hands and intended for human use, functional or otherwise. Every item in these rooms is the product of one man or one woman working alone, following whatever particular personal drive urges him along. This is Objects USA, the Johnson Wax exhibition of the work of 258 outstanding American craftsmen currently touring the United States. The past few years have witnessed the greatest crafts revival in our nation's history. Surely this indicates a disenchantment with the impersonal and the machine-made. But perhaps rather than just a withdrawal from the mainstream, it may be an old current alive again with new energy and freshness.
The place, Racine, Wisconsin. The speaker, Sam Johnson of Johnson Wax.
The building? Well, that was my father's idea. And I think it was in 1939 that he began thinking about it. So he went on a rather methodical search to find who was the greatest architect in the world. It didn't take him very long to discover that he lived right in Wisconsin. Mr. Frank Lloyd Wright out of Taliesin. He said, build me an office building, but I want the best office building in the world. I mean, that's all. Mr. Wright said, well, that's fine, and you've come to the right person. So he designed this place, and here it is. It has been a symbol for us of what we are as a company. It is an inspiring building, and that is more important, I think, than the mere practical function. One of our products is probably in 95% of the homes in this country, or more. So therefore, we have a responsibility in that sense in every home. A responsibility to the product will work right, and that it won't be dangerous, and that it'll do what we say it will do. And if all you have to do is stretch that a little farther, we have a responsibility for the quality of the town that we operate in, or the state, and then you broaden it, and we operate in 36 countries around the world. And to a certain degree, we have a responsibility to every country where we are. You've got to take a very broad view of what you are, so that when the score is added up about a company, it has done more for the people than less. My grandfather said something about this about 40 years ago. The machines that are now so lively will soon become obsolete, and the big buildings, for all their solidity, must someday be replaced. The goodwill of the people is the only enduring thing in any business. It is the sole substance, and the rest is shadow. I like that.
Harry Nohr lives in Mineral Point, Wisconsin. He's 73 years old and retired now as the town's postmaster. But his hobby of making wooden bowls from Wisconsin hardwoods keeps him busy full-time. His favorite bowls are made from burls, a tumorous growth found on the branches of trees.
Well, a big, nice burl is precious, and it don't come very often. It's a malformation. It's a tumor on a tree. For some work like making a bowl, it's very desirable because it has very pretty and very odd and unusual grain pattern and odd colors. Any kind of burls are more rare, scarce than most people believe. But a black walnut burl, to give you an idea how rare it is, I've been looking for them now. It'll soon be 11 years. And in that time, I had, well, this will be the fourth one. I was postmaster here for 16 years. And now I'm retired for the last 3 years. Never was so busy in my life since I retired. And I think everybody should do something with their hands. I do wish I had done it earlier because being a postmaster, while I enjoyed that, I had a nice relationship with the people, it doesn't give you much chance to exercise your imagination. This does give you a chance to kind of do as you please and exercise your imagination. I like to do something always creative. And because I never had any advanced education, I always had to work for a living in things that we're not so. So this is an outlet. You know, anybody can make a thick bowl, that's no problem. Make it out of whatever you got. But if you're going to make a nice thin bowl, you have to have a lot of preparation and then keep your tool extremely sharp. If you're watching the grain pattern develop and then you try to work with this, maybe you make an entirely different bowl than you set out to make. And if it gets real nice and real pretty, and then when you're getting down thin, you've got to be awfully careful because this can fly to pieces around the room. I had one hit me in the mouth, and I never saw so many diamonds in my life. And I felt to see if I had my teeth left. I want it never to be anything but a hobby, because I don't want to be in business. I've been in that too long, and I'm retired, and I don't ever want it to be that. I have some people who run the gift shop who just want to contract everything I could make. And they say, well, we'll pay you just what you get here, and you won't have to bother. So, well, then when anybody come to see us, you know, so many nice people come, you make so many nice friends and all. This is a part of it. And it's a lot of fun to sell to people who, about the bowls, you know, bolsters your ego. You like that.
Paul Soldner, one of the nation's outstanding potters, lives in Aspen, Colorado. He spends most of his time here, except for his teaching assignments in California, and for the travel involved in the many shows he judges or exhibits in throughout the country.
I start with clay, and I flatten it out with my hands and my feet until it spreads out to some kind of a basic flat piece of clay about a ½ inch thick. I never know where it's going to end up or where it's going to begin, and no two, of course, are alike. This would defeat the whole thing. And I've been experimenting through the years on breaking away from the round symmetry of a platter to some sort of a new form. And this may involve pushing it out with my foot, or it may involve tearing part of the clay and throwing that part away. And it keeps evolving very slowly, so that something I'm doing today doesn't look like something I did last year. A funny thing happened a couple of weeks ago. My folks came to visit with me, and you know, Dad's pretty proud of the fact that I'm a successful potter. So I was throwing a pot, and he said, well, why do you always change it from its round shape? You know, you can throw a beautifully symmetrical round shape on the wheel, and then you always goof it up. You always make it ugly. And I said, no, Dad, that's not making it ugly. I just am sick and tired of making them all round, and I'd like to do something else with it. Well, after he thought that over a little bit, and finally said, well, I thought an artist's role was to make things of beauty. What do you say to that? I finally said, well, what's beauty? The artist always, seems to me, is on his own wavelength, and things that he might consider to be beautiful doesn't necessarily coincide with what other people want to see or what they want to have. The texture's made sometimes with these figures that I've cut from magazines, traced from magazines. These are contemporary pictures of our time, and I think I'm sort of interested in using it, just as the Greeks may have drawn pictures of contemporary scenes on their pots. Historians, archaeologists might wonder why we did it, but if it's there, I think it should somehow or other enter into our work.
Dorian Zachai made the move from a suburban New Jersey town to New York, and then to this 150-year-old house in rural New Hampshire that is also her studio. She weaves tapestries and creates constructions in wool.
I think you can survive doing exactly what you want most to do. I really do. I mean, I really expect that Tapestries are going to support me. It's just taking a little more time than I thought it would. I haven't got any money. I'm not going to worry about it because I'll pull through. I have childlike faith. Making a piece, there are so many compromises, I think, mechanically, technically, there are so many compromises. And I mean, the things that I want to do, you know, as they sit in my head, are so magnificent and so far out. And then that idea I can't work out because the loom won't allow me to go this or that or whatever, you know, or the kind of, some particular kind of material isn't right at this minute available or something like this. And so that there are compromises constantly. And it seems to me like I'm just compromising from 1 minute to the next in terms of my ideal. So that, in a sense, yeah, I feel like my whole life is compromised. But it's only because it's on this idealistic scale. I wish people could embrace more different kinds of art at one time because, you know, it's like the funniest looking lady gets a husband, right? I mean, there's something for everybody. It's my theory. There's somebody for everybody. There's something for everybody, you know. There's all kinds of stuff that is bona fide, real, speaking art, you know? And it's kind of a shame that so much of it's being lost because it's, you know, it's the thing now to like this or that or the next thing. It kind of makes me very sad. It really does.
J.B. Blunk lives and works in Inverness in Marin County, just north of San Francisco. His craft and his geographical location are closely tied together because he works in wood. Gigantic redwood burls that the loggers leave behind, and huge pieces of driftwood that wash up on the nearby beaches. His basic tool is a chainsaw.
I mean, many people hate chainsaws because that's the tool that cuts down the forest. And it's revolutionized the logging industry. It's revolutionized it because you can cut down so many trees so fast. One man cut them up and get them off to the mill. And in that way, some people look at it as a savage, brutal tool. Well, it isn't a tool, it's what man does with the tool. It also has a terrible sound, a very brutal, rather vicious sound. It isn't a friendly thing at all. It isn't anything like any traditional hand tools. The textures you can do with the chainsaw are unlimited. I'm just beginning really to find out after working all these years with it. I bought my first chainsaw to cut down the trees to build a house, to clear the land to build a house. And then later, I at times would cut a lot of wood for fireplace wood for other people. But sometimes I would come upon portions of trees that were just so beautiful that I couldn't cut them, that I couldn't make firewood from them. And I would save those and stack them, and I had them stood up around where I'm living. All of a sudden, one day, I did something besides cut up firewood. I actually took a log and made a great chair, throne-like chair from it. And then I began to be challenged as to what you could do with the saw, because I wanted to create certain forms. By the sea. I do it by choice. It's always a very moving experience for me to go to the beach. There's always some discovery to make there. It's very rare that I don't bring something back from the beach when I go. Just in themselves, but I see the things that move me the most, as far as acquiring them is concerned, is things that I can see as material. The form is what primarily motivates my selection. The forms are very exciting for me in certain parts of the beaches. You can't explain why. It evokes something in me that is already there. It either is or it isn't for you. It can be the same with people, the same way with your work.
See, when we moved out to California, I hadn't even found a job. You know, I was going to move out here. And the location is good. You know, we don't have any neighbors. I can blow my bagpipes and not disturb anybody here. The rent is cheap. You know, the kids can play out around the building and there's no problems. There was about 6 restaurants, vacant restaurants for rent when we were looking around. We had a choice of 3. It was just a nice, bright space. And, you know, we liked the idea of the furniture here, too, the bar and the booths.
Clayton Bailey lives with his wife and 2 children in Crockett, California, a small industrial town northeast of San Francisco. He works in both plastics and clay and teaches ceramics at the University of California at Hayward.
I don't think too much about selling because I don't have to sell. I teach for a living. You know, I'm not going to consciously change what I do so that it'll sell. In fact, if I really like it, I don't want to sell it. I keep it around the house a long time. And I figured since I have a lot of extra work around all the time, I set up little sets in the windows. People come by sometimes, and when I'm working in the studio and people walk by and they say, "What is that?" Well, look at that stuff. It's the expression more than what they say. burping bowl comes from an aquarium accessory called a burping clam. It was a little plastic thing you put down in the bottom of your aquarium and run an aerator to it. Made a little noise and makes bubble comes to the top. I had the principle from the clam, and then I had a vocabulary of faces. I've been doing animals and monsters and things, so I just put them together. I guess I take some kind of a pride in having things that aren't saleable, you know, that have limited appeal. When people tell me things like that, they say, that's the most preposterous thing I saw, you know, that's like a compliment. If you laugh after you make it, or if you laugh when you think of it, it's a good idea, and I do it. And if it doesn't make me laugh the next morning, I don't do it.
James Tanner, glassblower, is a teacher at Mankato State College in Minnesota. Although glassblowing is one of the oldest of crafts, it's quite new to most American campuses. Jim Tanner was instrumental in establishing the Glass Lab here in Mankato.
I thought I would be mostly a loner, and growing up in early childhood, I did a lot of things by myself. Most of my little creative exercises was alone. And, you know, I didn't include other people immediately into this kind of personally oriented world. But now, you know, I think it's just really too important for anybody to exclude. Right now, it seems to be a very good thing to teach. See, I'm not blowing so much on it in the beginning. I'm just holding a constant pressure. See, that's just about thick enough.
With each gather, you just went closer to the neck part.
Right. Oh, this one will come out fine. any given thing in mind necessarily all the time. What is important, I think, is to get involved and actually be in the process of working, because things always happen. To really get involved in the thing so much that you become it. You can work a lifetime, 2 or 3 if you could really get that much time, and just working in this area, making these discoveries and doing these things.
Peter Voulkos is probably the best known and most admired artist in the world of American crafts today. He began as a potter, but has since evolved into a sculptor in cast bronze. His studio and home is a Berkeley, California warehouse that he has converted into a foundry. He is a full professor at the University of California at Berkeley, where he teaches pottery and sculpture.
And having your own foundry is more or less unique, but it's been part of the tools of trade as far as I'm concerned. I had to have it. A lot of artists, a lot of sculptors I know, they simply make drawings, shop drawings of things, and have it, farm it out, and have it done. A lot of them come in here and they think I'm crazy, you know. Get out of your mind, you know, like, what are you doing all that work for?
Turn on a fan in the back, both fans.
Most of my aesthetic sensibility comes out of my hand. That's probably why I went to pottery for so long, working in clay, because the whole thing is sort of a hand thing, you know. You respond to that. Everything, all the information comes into your hand, basically. It comes into that a tactile sort of thing, which is different from just taking it in from your eye, like a painter or something like that. Most of my forms come out of working with the material. I get these basic sort of things going in my head, and I start working, and they start developing themselves by trial and error. And most of the things come out of actually just getting in there and getting involved in it. I just stay involved in it and work. And that's the way stuff comes out. Like I said, there was a time there when they did have more, I mean, craftsmen were the machines of the time, you know. They were producing. The machine allows us a lot of leisure time today that they never had. They had to go around and do this thing day after day, you know. I believe in mass producing these things that we need, and I can't do it. I mean, I still have to do the thing by hand. What about me, the guy that has to work with his hand? Like, I can't. Like the computer and things like that sort of leaves me someplace else. You know? You never make deadlines. That's one of the bad things about it, very well. And if I don't get a sculpture done on time, that's too bad. I have a very bad reputation for that. Maybe that's why I don't get too many jobs. But I'm living the way I want to live, and I call my own shots, and I have everything, you know.
Toshiko Takaezu is a Japanese-American from Hawaii and a celebrated potter. She now lives in Clinton, a small town in the farm country of western New Jersey. She chose this area because it's close to both Princeton University, where she teaches pottery, and to New York City, which she loves to visit.
See, I like the country, and I thought this is where I'd like to live. And it's quite beautiful. You're just across the Delaware River, that's Bucks County. Yeah. I have to forego the city and take the country. I like to go around the farm to see all these people who raise the horses and pigs and the whole works. I really enjoy that. And the farmers around here, they're really fantastic. This is what you really enjoy doing. With clay, you know, you are completely physically like mixing the clay and wedging the clay, and you just have this huge ball of clay plunk on you throw right on the wheel head. If you really get involved, and sometimes without knowing that you get involved, you can almost hear things with the clay. And you can feel at peace with the clay also, because the material is alive and you just work, you know, like a dance movement, you know, a little pressure here, a little pressure, and all of a sudden you see this thing grow right in front of you. And some that's very, very beautiful. Sometimes that's enough when you have this thing just grow by itself like that. It's like magic in some ways. If I'm going to put raw clay in, I get a piece of paper, maybe paper towel, and wrap the beads like that, and I drop it in. And this I kind of enjoy because I always feel as though I'm sending a message down. You know? I just drop it in like that.
I've always loved being out under the sky. That seemed terribly important always, to not be indoors. You know, I hit a certain age when it was like I was ready to do something. I was mostly seriously considering dancing. And I began to realize that as a dancer, you know, there's no sky and there's no ground. It's dark, stinking rehearsal rooms. What I do takes so damn long to do. My whole life gets stretched out. The days are stretched out longer the years are stretched out longer. I don't know. The day is little birds in the sewer, and how the sky looks, and trying to get enough weaving in for that day, so I feel like I did something. Tried to get enough drawing in. At the same time, being pulled outdoors because I can't stand being indoors. It was kind of I wish the sun was shining today.
And if you're going to make a nice bowl, it's awfully foolish to start with a poor piece of wood, because how much effort you put in, you don't have anything very nice when you end up. There's such a difference in trees depending on where they grow and how they grow. You know, if say a walnut tree, if it grows out in the black, deep, rich soil, and another one grows on a place where it had to struggle, there'll be all the difference in the world in the colors and grain pattern. The one that struggled generally much the prettiest. Kind of like people, the ones that struggle a little maybe come out a little better.
I think the hardest thing, really, for me, is just the humdrum packing of the damn stuff. Getting the boxes, getting the hay or Excelsior, whatever you have to get. I'm getting to be the town character because I scrounge them. You know, I go in the alleys and pull them out of wherever I can get them. Yeah, I find certain places, you know, have better boxes. Like one size comes from beer boxes and wine boxes, another size comes from the importers of ski boots and things like that. And the importers, of course, make stronger boxes, and I really like that. But the town is getting kind of shook up about trash in the alley. I really have to case the places in a hurry every morning, you know, to get them before the trash man does.
I kind of felt that your visual sense, you know, when you look at things, you know, your eyes, most important thing, right? Then you go in like a child in a way. If you like something, the instinct is to go and touch. You just go and touch if it's touchable. Because you see some things and you like it, but you don't feel like touching. But I like to have pieces of mine that has an invitation to be touched. See, then that's a second feeling, right? First your eyes you see, and then next you touch it. And then once you touch it, then there's an extra element in there, which will be the sound. You touch it and something else happens, which you can't see, but it's there. That's what I like to have in quite a few of my pieces. The kiln has so much to say. If you fire the kiln a little hotter, or if you have certain kind of atmosphere in the kiln, it changes. I have one piece or two pieces there that feels like air. I don't think it's mine in a way, that it came through me, but the kiln had so much to say in this.
Hey, row F, stall H.
The Alameda Flea Market is a place down in Oakland where every Saturday and Sunday, the whole year round, people come and sell things they don't want. Some of it is people cleaning out their garages, and there's a few dealers that come down. There's one guy down there who sells a lot of toys. Sells only toys.
Hi, John. Good morning, Clayton.
What do you got today?
Got you an egg.
Got me an egg.
An egg. Clay's little brown jug.
What else you got?
Yeah, I got a monster, man.
That's a good toy, yeah. He walks and he growls. What do you want for him?
Oh, you know, you being friends and all, 2 bits.
Okay, fantastic. I'll take it.
Can have his own unique, happy way of being. Maybe that's something that we're talking about. The people that you meet that are unique are the ones that you remember.
There was a time in my life when I didn't consider myself an artist. It was something I wanted to be someday. I was just a maker of objects and things. You know. I can't say why I make things in many instances. I just make them, and I have to. And if I couldn't, then I would really find it very difficult to live, I know. I came to a point once in my life where I was trying to decide which way to commit suicide. I remember that time. I was living here, you know, and I was that unhappy. I was that down. And there's only one thing that kept me from doing it. And that was, I thought a lot about it, and I just really believed more in what I was trying to do than giving up. I was still building the environment. I'd done a lot of work, and I knew I was going to do something else, and I didn't know exactly what it was, but it took every waking moment and every ounce of strength I had, it seemed, to keep on working. You have to believe in life. You have to believe in, I don't know how to put it, in some kind of energy, some sort of life force, I guess you'd call it. You really have to be hooked on that in order to keep creating. It doesn't matter what field you're working in.